Hey moms, how you doing? Let's have a little sit down chat, shall we? Does anyone else feel like you're going a little bit crazy? Maybe a little bit? I know COVID has been hard. I am one of those moms that is typically very, very excited for school to start again in the fall. In past years, I have definitely experienced summer burnout. One of the reasons for that, I feel, is that we're not a particularly wealthy family, so we don't have an abundance of resources to be able to travel a lot and do a lot of fun things during the summer. We have our basic needs met. We find our own ways to have fun, but that requires a lot of creative energy from me as mom. And typically by the end of the summer, I am like toast. I am so excited for the school year to come so that I can just focus on my own schoolwork or on my business or on my big kids that I've been homeschooling the last couple of years. Just, taking the children at home ratio from like 5 kids between 6 and 14 down to 2 kids and they're just 12 and 14, like big difference. And being home for 4 months now, pretty much all day, every day with all my family, including my husband, has been interesting. So I want to let's just take a little bit of time and let's talk about the mom job. Let's talk about what you were doing as a mom, what I'm doing as a mom, what we're finding helps us through this time, through this experience. And maybe we can get some kind of clarity on this topic. I tend to process as I talk. So I'm going to process as I talk, and I'm going to pull some stuff from my studies this year for my family my course that focused really intensely on the family, and some stuff from my last couple courses on marriage and parenting. And let's bring it all together and let's see what we can do to find some balance and perspective and peace right now as moms. Okay, so I want to talk to you first about the goals of effective mothering. So being a mom, for me, I knew that I wanted to be a mom, and I couldn't wait to get married, and I couldn't wait to get my family started. And I actually thought there was something wrong with me, and I was totally dysfunctional that I wasn't married sooner than I was. I married my first husband when I was 21. But I was just so excited to start a family. And less than a year, I think it was actually 6 months, like 6 months after we were married, inadvertently, I was pregnant with my first child. You can't take thyroid medication and birth control like within so many hours of each other, or pregnancy happens. So I was pregnant with my first really quickly, and it really kind of threw us for a loop. But I was so excited and looking forward to parenthood that I went into it head first. And in all of those almost 15 years since I became a mother for the first time, I have had another child, been divorced, remarried, and had 3 more children. And I have been ineffective and I've been effective. And there have been periods of my life when I've been a more effective mother, when I was on the floor with my children watching backyardigans and playing blocks, and we were doing the little Einstein's craze for a long time and teaching them letters and making sure they were early readers. And, I had that phase. And then I had a lot of chronic health issues. So I've also had the phase where it was like, get them up, get them off to school, hit the couch, make a bowl of cereal for the toddler, hit the couch. Hopefully I don't have to move until lunchtime, and, I've been through both of those periods where I've been a really, truly effective mom, and when I've really not been particularly effective in my parenting. And what I mean by effective, and I don't want this to sound like a judgment, so that's why I'm trying to clarify here, is how much of an impact you have on your child's emotional and intellectual growth. And like I said, I've had a lot of chronic health issues in the last 20 years of my life, really, but specifically the last 10 years of my life. And it started with a back injury and it just snowballed from there. And I already had autoimmune issues before the back injury, but I digress. And when I was in those hardest times and when my health was absolutely the worst, I could not be as effective of a mom as I was. And so I had to have a lot of grace with myself. I had to trust that it takes a village to raise a child. I had to lean on other people. My husband has had to take up a lot of extra slack. He does a lot of things that I think a lot of husbands don't do. Not because, they don't refuse to do it or they don't, not do it because of pride or anything like that, but just because I couldn't perform a lot of tasks that I feel like I should be performing while he's at work, to kind of keep the house moving and flowing smoothly, because I couldn't do them or I can't do them. He does them. And we've really had to work together, but I do recognize and acknowledge that there have been periods where I have just not been as effective of a mother. I haven't been present. I haven't been active in my children's lives. Even though I was home and I was here, just wasn't as effective as I could have been. I, in the past, have really struggled with a social media tech addiction. And I've had to work really hard to break away from that, be aware of that. And so that's why, I was filming a video just a minute ago and my phone died or my phone was dead. And I was like, oh, my phone's dead. I just let my phone die all the time now. And I don't turn it back on right away. And that's part of, I just go plug it in, let it stay off for a few hours, and then I'll turn it back on. And that's just part of my commitment to deprioritizing my cell phone and social media, and prioritizing what's happening around me and my kids in my life. So back to the goals of effective parenting. The goals of effective parenting are preserving life. So once again, let's make sure that the toddler gets breakfast, that your first grader has lunch packed, that your fourth grader did his homework and his spelling list. And, that if your husband has a job interview tomorrow, but he's going to be working late tonight, that you make sure that he has a shirt that's not stained to wear. Just, I don't know why I just pulled the husband into the children category, but that totally just happened. But preserving the life of our children, I guess the husband getting a better job does help preserve the life of the children. But preserving the lives of our children, making sure that the basic necessities are met, that they have clean clothes, that they have a roof over their head, that they have food, that they are going to be able to survive with what you're providing for them, whether that be resources or time. And then the next thing is nurturing. It's so important that we nurture our children and that we bring that emotional education to them through our own actions. Then the last, main objective, that main goal is to teach and to educate, to actually contribute to our children's intellectual growth. I am really, really blessed that growing up, I had a dad who liked to teach something about anything. Wherever we were, it was a teaching experience. If I saw a bird that I didn't know, he'd say, well, grab the field guide and let's look at it and let's see if we can identify this bird. Or if we were on a road trip, we stopped at every single historic marker and talked about it and read about it. And he always had some knowledge, some trivia, some fact that correlated with something. And he really made sure that I grew up and that my siblings grew up to be learners, to be interested in learning, to want to know more information and data. And as moms, that is a huge part of our responsibility, is to teach our children, whether it's teaching them to clean up after themselves, teaching them how to get dressed, teaching them how to properly brush their teeth, teaching them how to make a meal, teaching them how to love reading, I mean, even if we aren't the ones who necessarily teach them to read, they really learn that in school, teaching them to love reading through our example and through reading to them. Those are really the main responsibilities that we have as parents. So now we've outlined our responsibilities. Let's talk about how we become more effective in these areas of responsibility. The first one, once again, being focusing on sustaining life. For me, the key to that has been organization. That has been making sure that we have a meal plan. So we have a menu that's planned out. I actually plan my meal plans for 2 weeks because I only do my big grocery shopping every 2 weeks. And then if we need a little something here or there from the store in that 2-week window, we can grab it here and there. For example, cilantro doesn't necessarily last for 2 weeks, I found. A lot of produce has to be refreshed after about a week, but we do it on a schedule. We have our meal plan, then we have our grocery lists, our shopping lists that are compiled based on the meal plan. And that has provided a huge sense of security for my family. If I lag on that, if I get behind on my meal plan, if I don't do a meal plan and I just go do the grocery shopping, the kind of stress and chaos that ensues and perpetuates until I get that resolved, specifically for my teenagers. They have a really hard time if I don't have food planned and prepared. They're not great at fending for themselves or figuring out creative solutions. And in our house, we don't do quick 2 meals very often. Because of health reasons, we do like to eat a gluten-free, largely dairy-free diet and focus on smaller portions of meat and larger portions of produce. So that requires a lot of planning, a lot. Regarding nurturing growth and development and just nurturing our kids and breeding, emotional intelligence and awareness into them, the thing that I want to share with you guys, and I've mentioned this before, is that mental health struggles are part of my story. They're a sizable chunk of my story. And I think one of the reasons that they are a part of my story is because it's part of my life path to help people that struggle with mental illness. And that's why I'm going to school on the path that I'm right now. I'm in the Marriage and Family Studies program, but that translates up to either a marriage and family counseling a graduate program or a master's of social work program. So that's where I'm going next after this. I really do feel called to help people that have suffered like I've suffered and struggled like I've struggled with mental health issues. And so when I process through my mind nurturing my children, really being able to emotionally connect to them and love them and care for them and teach them how to love and care and connect with other people, the first thing that flashes into my mind is the importance of my mind being square, the importance of my mind being stable and resolved and peaceful. And I'm never going to be like 100. That sounds like a fixed mindset statement, but it would be unrealistic for me to think that my mental health will be 100% solid and happy and perfect all the time. Because life situations pop up, something will happen and it will completely throw me for a loop. And it doesn't even have to happen with my kids. It can happen in a social situation, or it can happen with an extended family member. And it throws me for such a loop that the next thing I know, I'm shutting down and I turn inwards and I isolate and I get afraid to connect. And I shut myself off from my husband and my kids. And I've learned a lot of good ways to cope with things like that, to shut down that cycle, a cycle of repetition and rumination in my mind that's part of obsessive compulsive disorder, and to let things go. But it's still a process, and I'm still vulnerable to things like that happening. And I have learned that taking care of myself and taking care of my mental health is the precursor before any kind of effective and meaningful nurturing and loving and really truly serving my children with an attitude of kindness and love and respect. And I can say that having lived so many years where I just did what I had to do as a mom because I had to do it as a mom. And there was a certain amount of frustration and resentment. And I tried to not be angry. I tried to be cheery, but there were even years where I felt like being a mom was not a good fit for me. Where I just felt really resentful and I felt trapped and I felt like I was meant for so much more than being a mom. And everybody catch that little sense of pride right there. And I'm so grateful that where I've come to right now, as I've experienced more things, as I've studied marriage and family studies, and as I've gotten myself healed, healing myself and my brain, doing the intense work that I've done with several different practitioners and a great therapist over the last year has really helped me both to be able to feel genuine, deep emotions again and bond and connect and nurture my children. So if you're struggling right now, if you're going through this COVID pandemic and you're really struggling to connect with your children and you're struggling to love them as unconditionally as you want to, that's an indicator that there's something, how do I say this? That you have an unfulfilled need. That's what that's an indicator of. So evaluating what your unfulfilled needs, do you need more self-care time? Do you just need alone time? Do you need more time with your spouse? Do you need a better schedule? Do you need more routine for yourself and your children? Do you just need to go outside once a day and scream, hug a tree, something? What is it that you need so that you can be that divine, feminine, loving, nurturing being that is inside of you, but the stress of the situation has just broken down your coping mechanisms and you don't know how to tap into that anymore. So it's hard. It's hard. I feel you. I get you. I've been there. I am so profoundly grateful that I'm doing so well right now. But I know that there are so many people that are struggling right now. So I really wanted to just share that with you. Okay, so focusing on teaching, and it's our responsibility to teach our children. Obviously, the homeschool thing is one way that I teach my kids. But even when we're not doing the school year or back when my kids were in the public school system, I loved teaching during the summer. I loved taking advantage of the summer to make sure my kids didn't have any gaps or they didn't fall behind at all during the summer, to just spend an hour or two every morning and teach them a concept, get their brains working, get them critically thinking. Every morning, my kids and I, the rule is that we're downstairs by 8:00. And if you haven't had breakfast, you get breakfast and you sit down and we're ready to go by like 8:15. And the children journal on a topic that I come up with. And we've been journaling about really fun topics lately. We've done what I want to learn this upcoming school year. We've done what's your favorite animal? What's your favorite dinosaur? That one was requested by the 8-year-old. And just today, we journaled about your favorite way to do art. Some of my kids like to sketch. Some of my kids like to collage. Some of my kids like to create sculptures with clay. So we focused on all the different ways that we can create art. But we do that journaling exercise. The children read for 30 minutes and I grab a book and I read with them too. And so it's silent reading. And then they spend 30 minutes on Prodigy on their laptops and playing math games. And it keeps everybody fresh. It keeps us in touch. It breeds that love of learning, that it teaches that message that learning should be a continual and constant thing in life, that learning is fun, that learning is engaging, that learning can be something that's done together to bring connection to other people. When we allow or convey a message that school is boring or it's not fun or it's work or boring labor or blah, 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 or if that's the attitude that your child, picks up, this is a really good opportunity to teach them that learning is fun and to engage them. And luckily, there are so many really good resources you can use on your children at home to engage them in learning and to engage their minds, whether it be watching Wildcrats on PBS. That is a huge favorite in our house. Or whether it be games like Prodigy that teach math and get kids engaged and get them interacting with each other. There are a lot of really wonderful resources. My first grader uses ABC Mouse on my tablet and she loves it. And it's, once again, I'm teaching them to love learning, and that's creating independent learners of all of them. And then I'm teaching them all other kinds of things that they need to know about life and their responsibilities, both to themselves and to other people. And that's really, truly our job. And I think that we're all trying to do the best that we can, but I think it's always good to really evaluate whether or not we're teaching the right things or if there's something we could be doing better to teach our children. I'm constantly asking that question of myself. Okay, what can I do better? Do I need to, change a little bit of approach with this child here? I do during the school year with my homeschoolers, I do like 30 minutes with each of them every morning. We go over their assignments for the week, what they did yesterday, what they're doing today. And we do like a little life skills and a little religious study. And doing that with them really helps to get everybody on the same page and to help them know that learning is important and we enjoy learning and that they can do it. So I just want to wrap this up by once again pointing out that this is a really hard time for all of us. It is. And some of us are doing really good. Once again, I'm so profoundly grateful that I'm doing well with this time right now. I understand that COVID could get way worse this flu season, but I really am so grateful that I'm doing so well with it right now. And the biggest reason I think for that is because I chose in March to stop worrying so much about my business, to kind of shift my priorities with my schooling a little bit and to focus on my family, focus on that job I have as a mother. And the more I focused in on my role as mom and those responsibilities, the happier I've become. And for those of you guys that personally know me, I'm a little bit of a feminist. I'm a little bit outside of the box. And so for me to put so many things aside and focus on my children and to be finding so much joy in it right now, I think that's a testament that, first of all, anyone can do it. And second of all, that, I just testify to you, I witness to you that if you prioritize your children, if you prioritize your family, there is true, profound joy in it. And it can permeate out to everyone. So love you guys. You got this.
Hey friends, if you liked this video, go ahead and click subscribe. This is the 7th video out of 8 in our project, but there's more.